It's all about your actions, your thoughts, and your reactions on people. So if you can uphold yourself to the best version of yourself, not anybody else's standards, then that's probably the one thing is just shifting that focus of, okay, instead of thinking what other people's are thinking at that moment, what are you thinking about yourself?
100%. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to In the House podcast. I'm Toni Singh.
And I'm Jenny Woon.
We have a bit of a different topic for you today. You know, we like to hit you with those. Today's topic is how to stop caring about what others think of you. Jenny, why is this such an essential topic and point of discussion?
Well, the reason why I wanted to chat about this was because I was curious. I was on Apple Podcast and we got a 3-star.
Oh, that's interesting.
Without any reviews.
Normally they're 5s, but okay.
They all have 5. We all have 5s. But it kind of hit me. I was like, well, I want to know why. How can we improve our podcast content? And then I thought, how, maybe whatever's happening throughout this person's life, it could have impacted their reasoning for the 3-star.
This is such a good topic and you didn't tell me that's why.
Maybe they were super jealous.
Honestly, I'd just be like, who cares? It has nothing to do with us, most likely.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I would have wanted to know... Maybe it was somebody who actually is not even in real estate and
maybe they don't actually like
material
me.
Don't even actually pertain to like what they need to learn or do.
In any case, it's fine. But I think where you're coming from is that ultimately, if it was a true review, we want to make sure that we're delivering high value information. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
We're not taking offense to that. It probably was not a real review. However,
I'm taking it that way.
Let's go into this topic because what a perfect segue.
And actually, any review, to be honest, is actually good review because it gives you an opportunity to actually respond to it. And when you get a Google review that is not, positive, by your reply, it actually shows how you're integral in your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Well, that's the topic for today. So let's talk about understanding why we as people growing up in a society care about others' opinions.
I know it's like super natural to care because there's a certain human element where we want to try to be accepted. Right?
Of course, it's normal, like tribal, living in packs way back in the day, maybe something in a Darwin type of way for survival.
Yes. However, over time, the need for approval and the need to feel like you belong has turned into something extremely toxic. And so here are some of the reasons why we might care too much about people's opinions. The fear of being rejected, right? So we want to be liked. We want to be accepted by friends, colleagues. And what happens when you feel like that internal sense of like fear of being rejected? And this happens often when agents especially are having a hard time picking up the phone.
Oh my gosh,
do outbound calls.
I know. It is, naturally, I think that we don't want to be rejected, of course, because we can take it personally. I think, honestly, we all still have these fears to a certain extent. Maybe it shows up in different realms, but I would say for myself at least, and I think it's probably true for you over the years, these things really don't bother me anymore. But yeah, especially when I was a kid and a younger agent, fear of rejection was pretty high up there. I was afraid of rejection too.
I think I've always been in marketing and sales my entire life when I started work. And I think I developed a really quick sense of that your product or service actually is not catered for like every single person.
We've talked about this before. If you try and appeal to everybody, you appeal to no one. So you do have to get used to the reality that not everybody's going to resonate with the message. Similar to like, that 3-star review could have been from a real person, might not have been, because even if we take ourselves out of the equation for a second, I've been on other business pages where I can tell that some of the reviews are fake, or it's like, it could be motivated by something else. It doesn't look like a real one. So they really shouldn't get upset about it.
Yeah. And a lot of people put reviews, regardless if it's good or bad, to get points. There's like Yelp points or something like that.
I noticed that because for us, that first scenario was like on our real estate page where they're all 5-star reviews from clients. Mm-hmm. And sure, maybe we got very lucky. But also I think the service is there. And then there was this one person who reviewed every single business on the 2600 block of Hastings.
Interesting.
For the point, you could tell clearly they rated every single business a 1-star. You can see when the reviews happen, right? So this was not a real person who's experienced the services of any of the businesses. And I'm like, but why do that? You shouldn't be given any points because it's pretty clear what you're doing. And it's not coming from an integrist, like you're trying to help somebody see who has better service or quality product.
Mm-hmm. And were you able to challenge this person?
I reported it. Yeah. But I don't think in that circumstance, Google really cared. It wasn't high up on their priority list. But very clearly, I mean, every single business, you got insurance, you've got restaurants, you've got community outreach, and they all got a 1-star review within 24 hours.
Yeah, sounds super suspicious.
I know.
And so the self-esteem issue, why often when we don't feel confident in ourselves, we often rely on external validation, and that can be very dangerous.
Well, we're taught that too from a really young age, right? So it's like maybe there's a certain degree of survival mode where that happens as a child. But then when you're put into schooling with other kids, right, it is a natural thing that kind of happens. And I think with teachers and parents, it's perpetuated unnecessarily. So like you don't actually know that you're doing it, but it does. So I think for you and I, though, over the years, we've been doing a lot of inner reflection work. And I still don't know everything, guys. I have so much to learn and so much to improve on. But I would say for myself that type of work and the meditation work, it's really helped me over the years because I don't feel as though there's a self-esteem. It's not self-esteem in the same way like as, I'm worried about how this looks. Mm-hmm. I'm worried about what people are going to say if I say this. It's like, as long as I'm okay with it, and it's true to and in alignment with me, I'm okay with it. I just have to let it go. That's it.
I think for me, it hasn't ever been like a self-esteem. Mm-hmm. It's more about like really standing grounded with your own boundaries.
Yes.
And standing ground of like your values, which is the next thing I want to get to is the cultural pressure. Oof. Is society teaching us that there's a certain standard. And so making it easy to feel super inadequate if you don't meet those expectations or standards.
Well, it's hard with social media these days too, right? Because it perpetuates a certain quote unquote standard, which also might not be authentic. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's challenging to contend with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe for myself, it has actually served me really well, thinking that I've always been like the black sheep, or not wanting to fit in because I always want to feel different. And that's a really good example is when there's a certain trend or pattern of agents doing something like media or whatever it is. Yeah. I tend to like jump off board.
Totally.
Because I was already on it for a while and I'm like, okay, this is done, one and done, and I'm moving on.
But I mean, if you look even at history with a lot of the successful businesses, the industry disruptors are the ones that you remember. It's not the ones that jump on the bandwagon to do what everybody else is doing. Mm-hmm. And so you're giving an example right now of how you've operated your business. But I do resonate with it because as a young schoolgirl, I was very nonconformist. And my opinions were they were very different than a lot of the students and the teachers. Probably also why I have a problem with authority.
Well, the one thing I really admire about you is that you have, you always have an opinion. And
I can keep it to myself.
No, but it's like, You always have your input, and it allows me to actually stand back and be like, okay, maybe I should relook at this, because there's somebody who's you're coming from an objective standpoint, and sometimes we can be super
thank you for
emotional
that.
into our decision process, right?
I mean, we're all like that to a certain degree, right?
Yeah. And so when you constantly worry about what others think, what's going to hold you back is you end up losing authenticity.
Even like we talked about it before on when we had some awesome social media guests on our podcast. Losing authenticity or being afraid of what others are going to think about you for putting content out there. It's like a common human experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you start behaving in ways that truly doesn't really represent you.
Yeah.
Right. And what personal branding is all about, it's about someone experiencing your vulnerability and who you really are and what your values are all about. And when you are not yourself, you become stagnant. You end up having this, you don't end up trying new things. You don't pursue new goals because the fear and judgment sets precedent.
I've seen that happen before, and you're just like stuck.
Yes. Yeah. So then you don't take risks, right? And what will happen, your nervous system doesn't align. And essentially, you're going to suffer emotionally.
We talk a lot about a nervous system on this podcast, huh? It's true.
I feel
it's
like
100%
we're
true.
really conscious about our own nervous system and our emotions that we're going through, you and I.
But let's just zeroing in for a second, because I think if you're new to this, it might just go in one ear and out the other, which is fine. So do you notice, let me just solidify the thought that, okay, I think we're both pretty good now at living an integrous life, or at least if we're asked a question and we're responding in a certain way to somebody, most likely that response is going to be aligned with who we are, right? Yes. Now, when you're out of alignment, even that for that brief second, like it could be with a client, for example, because we're not perfect people. It's impossible to be perfect all the time, but maybe you say something that's slightly out of alignment from how you would normally believe things to be true for you. What happens with your body? Do you ever pick up on that? Because I rarely do it anymore, but it's funny because when I've spoken slightly out of alignment, I can catch it. I'm like, oh, that's not right for me.
If that was to ever happen, okay, I would probably roll shoulders in. So that's the physical aspect of it.
Yeah, but there's
right?
things that happen at that nervous system level.
Yes.
And that's what we're talking about, just for those of you that are maybe not making the link between this and nervous system.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good example.
I would say my breath shortens and like everything is
your breathing changes.
Yeah, my breathing changes and everything is from like chest up.
Yeah.
There's
I've had
tension.
that happen. Yeah, totally. Okay.
And so when you're putting so much pressure on yourself and all the weight on someone else's opinion, you end up second guessing yourself.
Yeah.
And then that self-esteem starts like ripping you apart, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. So I want to offer some steps for people to stop caring about others, what others think of them. Shift on and shift your focus on what you can control. And so what can you control is what you think, what you do, and what you say. And this is one of my personal branding sessions that I've presented in front of a big audience. It's all about your actions, your thoughts, and your reactions on people. So if you can uphold yourself to the best version of yourself, not anybody else's standards, then that's probably the one thing is just shifting that focus of, okay, instead of thinking what other people's are thinking at that moment, what are you thinking about yourself?
100%.
Right? So some action steps. Write down your values, your missions, your goals, what you stand for. I love the core value exercise. I recently bought a card package to talk about core values and what's really important in my personal and professional life.
I like that.
And refer back to and it comes with a journal, actually.
Oh, you should share that link with me later.
Best Self, if you guys want
Best
to
Self.
go on a website. It's
Love
called
it.
Best Self.
.ca?
And they actually started off with an action plan journal. I actually ended up buying future, like more action plan journals, because it was a gift that I was buying it for my staff, and I ended up buying core values card. And so it's like playing cards almost.
So it's, sorry, Best Self Journal?
Best Self Co.
Oh, okay.
CO.
That's why I couldn't get it. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
And actually, they only mail to the States. Unfortunately, I think they stopped mailing to Canada. So I had to open up like a mailbox.
Oh, did you? Well, you're that
Point
dedicated
Roberts.
to the product. Oh, wow. It does look cool.
Yeah.
Dang.
So I was really dedicated just because I was wanting to
checking this
renew
out
for
later.
For the next year. But at the same time, the core values exercise, I've actually brought it into a lot of my coaching sessions.
I love that. Well. That's a great tip. Thanks, Jenny.
So another step to stop caring about what others people think, understand that people are just thinking about themselves.
So I really like this one because you can observe it happen so often. Like even if you're taking yourself outside of a completely different scenario and you're just observing people, often if you see a highly emotive reaction from somebody, they're already emotionally primed to see things or feel things a certain way. So it's 100% about themselves, not necessarily about the other people that they're conversing with. And so this is so true. But in my observations, I would say that almost 75% of the time or more, it's often because people, if they're highly emotional or judgmental, it normally has nothing to do with the person that they're actually having a discussion with. It's normally a reflection of themselves, and they're reflecting their insecurities on other people. So an action step is, if you're worrying about what people are thinking of you, just remind yourself that their opinions are likely based on their own biases and fears, and they're not a reflection of at all of your own worth.
And just, I want to refer back to how family dynamics actually play such a big factor in this, because your parents are probably telling you how to act, how to react, how to avoid. And this is something that they're fearful of themselves, and they're up, like how they,
of course, yeah,
how they were raised, right?
I'm sure that without knowingly doing so, I probably do that with my kids too, right? I'm not meaning to, but my kids have different personalities anyhow. So the way that I respond to Antonio would be differently received in the way that I would respond to Stevie. Do you know what I mean? Like they're just different. They process things differently. And so, yeah, I'm sure that I'm going to screw my kids up good without knowing so. But, I'm trying not to.
This is a very simple example, which happens all the time, is you want to clean your home before someone arrives.
Oh, gosh.
Like a guest arrives to your home.
With kid stuff, it's all over the place. They've got crumbs, toys.
But there are some people, like friends, who have to be completely clean and organized because they want to be viewed as a perfectionist.
It's true. Just do what I do. Don't have people over. No, but it's true. It's true.
Then you completely avoid stop caring what people think.
Avoidance.
Challenge your negative thoughts. And so when you actually have this fear of judgment, it's worse and it's super worse than the reality. We build up these like worst case scenarios that actually never really happen.
A lot.
Or like, for example, yesterday we sent an email or Brock was sending an email, a mass email out to his new students.
Amazing.
Yeah. And he was super worried that the email was done incorrectly.
Oh.
He was worried that it wasn't edited correctly, and it was forwarded with old, I guess, content in the email, and it wasn't deleted properly before it was sent out. So anyways, I said, why don't you just forward me the exact email that was reformatted before when you sent the mass email? And so he sent it to me, and it was like perfectly fine.
So, but this is a great example, and we've all been guilty of this, right? Like our newsletter. I'm definitely not attached to perfection because I'm like, listen, it's good enough. Send it out. We can get it better the next time. It's a work in progress. But Warren is very different. He's like, he's super perfectionist, very anal about certain things, which is also why his branding looks very spot on. But I'm like,
oh, do you guys have different branding? I thought you guys have the same branding.
Well, for the brokerage, but he also has his individual site and stuff, right? Because he's not a part of the team. Just an example, right? We do things differently. I'm like, whatever, it's good enough. Just get it out, because half
Otherwise,
the
I'm
battle's
never
getting it
done.
out. There's
Yeah.
great content there. You're just being nitpicky.
Right. So we want you to challenge these negative thoughts with certain evidence and rational thinking rather than digging deep into what's the worst that could happen.
True.
Or is it, ask yourself, is it really that bad? I mean, honestly, people probably will laugh at it, or they probably won't even be paying attention.
That's true.
And if it shows that you made a minor mistake, it just means that you're also human.
And just acknowledge it. Apologize. So another one is, I love this one. Surrounding yourself with positive people, like my friend Jenny, right? Because I know that I can call you if I need to bang out ideas or something. And it's interesting, right? Because we're at competing brokerages, but I would still call you and be like, hey, listen, I've got a situation here. What do you think? But it's because you're a very positive person. We're very aligned in that way. So an important thing is, seeking out friends, mentors, colleagues who appreciate who you truly are. And it's easier when you're surrounded by positive energy.
Yeah. And it is also very toxic to, I think, to be with the people that are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that. And
get over it. Who cares?
Almost trying to win you over, you know what I mean? By agreeing with you.
Because that comes from a lower energy form. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
it's like,
totally.
Yeah.
I think what they're trying to do is they too may be seeking approval from you too.
Yes.
And it really is actually just creating this.
It's like noise, unnecessary
negative
noise.
environment.
Totally.
Right? So invest in people who
step.
uplift you. Action step. Yeah.
Taking inventory of your relationships.
Totally. Yep. So as you grow up, your values may change, your intentions may change, your circle of friends may change. And I would just be really cautious of who the right people are in your life. And it's okay that you lose some friends along the way. You have to just be kinder with yourself. So practicing that self-compassion, that maybe you've made the mistake of becoming friends with someone, or if someone disapproves of something that you did, just don't dwell on it. When you are practicing self-compassion, you're accepting yourself with every fiber in your body, and you're just constantly learning and growing from those experiences. So action step for that is starting a good habit of like writing things down, of things that you are proud of. So write a goal and then check it off that you actually completed that goal. Over time, you just build that confidence.
I want to say too, it doesn't even have to be a huge goal, because it starts with habits and everything, right? So maybe for that day, I don't know, a micro goal was getting up at a certain time.
Making yourself a smoothie.
And you did it for health, right?
Yep.
But that's actually a really big win. So it is important to acknowledge these things, and it builds up your confidence too, and your self-compassion. I think you'll love this one the most.
Setting boundaries. We talked about this. So when you set boundaries with other people's opinions, you actually really have to ask yourself, how much does it matter and how much will it impact into your life? And if you don't take that, then are things really going to actually make a big difference? So, and when you're seeking someone's opinions, just be really careful with who you're asking.
100%. Or even you can ask their opinion, but don't take it to heart, right? It's just another opinion in a sea of opinions.
Take action anyways.
Yeah. But let's say more about that, because I don't think people would normally know what that means. Like, what do you mean? I'm feeling all these things, but I should do it anyhow?
Well, the more you step out of your comfort zone, the more resilient you end up becoming to someone's criticism or expectations. And if you just do it, there's actually no harm. There's actually worse harm or opportunity losses for not taking those action steps.
It's funny because if you look at a lot of, I think we like blueprint stories or stories of success, right? So if you're looking at a bunch of entrepreneurial stories, most of the doers who didn't even have a full sense of what they were going to sell or how it was going to look or what the processes were going to look like. But they had an idea. Normally, when they went forward with the idea, they succeeded anyhow, just because it's like, I'm just going to take the action anyhow. And then maybe I'll sort some of these things out as I go.
And that's the beauty of our business. I'm realizing we work in this industry where every day is changing. And when there's no action, when you're not a doer, there's actually nothing happening, right? So take the action anyways, because you just learn from those experiences. The only opinion that matters is yours.
That's right.
Okay. So the more you live authentically, the more empowered you'll feel. And if you find value in this episode, don't forget. And if you don't do it, we don't care. No, but we want you to subscribe.
Okay.
We want you to share, rate, review on your favorite podcast platform. Just remember, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we're on YouTube. Check us out. As always, connect with us on social media. We want to hear from you what you want us to share. So until next time, keep focusing on yourself, be true to yourself, and that's all we got.
Wishing you much success.